My name is Dalton Johnson, and this is my final project for climate change ecology, labeled Can Caribou Keep Carrying On with Climate Change? I hope you enjoy. To start out, here's a picture of a caribou in case you don't know what one looks like. It has a nice coat. In this case, it's in a nice woodland setting. Has a pair of antlers and overall a cool looking animal. For my introductory, I want to take a general look at caribou and why caribou are important to us, or maybe this is just me. The first reason I thought of was the aesthetic portion, since so many people travel just to view their migration or just to observe the species in different environments. Another reason is movies such as Brother Bear, Frozen, or The Polar Express, where caribou are a big part of movies. The picture to the right is a scene from Brother Bear from 2003 where Kenai is running from caribou. I think a big reason why three of us did caribou for our presentation is because we have this idea of caribou being important to us, whether it be from movies or we're just connected to the species in some way. Another reason is food, probably the most important one, where where caribou is a major food source for populations, major cultural groups, and just people that live in those regions. Caribou in North America, according to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, there's 5 subspecies. Some people might say there's only 2, but in this case we'll go with 5. There's the Peary in the northern Canadian islands, the Peary Barren Ground in the southern Canadian islands, Barren Ground in the northern Canadian provinces and territories. There's Grants in the Yukon Territory and most of Alaska. Some say this is just Barren Ground caribou, but in this case we'll say it's a different subspecies. Then there's the Woodland caribou, the southern Canadian provinces, and goes down the Rocky Mountains, and used to live in Idaho as well. The reason there's so many different subspecies is because the variety of habitat, variety of migration routes, and variety of different patterns these caribou have. And climate change is going to affect these species in a different way. That's why my presentation is going to focus on different populations in these subspecies and how they're impacted by climate change, and look at a few different studies. Starting up north, we'll focus on a barren ground caribou population I'm not going to try to pronounce. I'll show you the region. It's on the southern end of the range of the barren ground caribou. This study I focused on was the spring migration phenology. The figure to the right focuses on when spring migration used to occur in 2004 to when, at the end of the study, what was happening in 2016. So figure A right here, it began about day 132 of the year. Towards the end of the season is around day 118. So it's over 10 days of early migration, about a 12-year period. B is the calving season. It used to occur day 162. Now it's more 156, or 6 days earlier calving. And C is peak calving season, which you can interpret for yourself. Another cool subject I found from this study was from 2004 to 2011, the mean snow cover was about 30%. Then from 2012 to 2016, the highest percent snow cover they would have during the spring migration was about 14%. And there's just a lot more variables with snow during this time. These caribou this certain population was tracked with GPS collars to see their movement during the calving season and the migration. The vegetation in this area was mostly permafrost tundra with some willows as well. So you're still in that tundra region, even if you're in the southern portion of the range. Big, I guess, factor in this study was the more variable snow and earlier snowmelt led to longer migration. Longer migration could lead to more sickness, more deaths, with more poor forage conditions, which could also lead to more deaths with the variable snow and the variable weather patterns. Next, we'll keep going farther south to woodland caribou. The first study focused woodland caribou as a whole, actually a focus on North American species and how climate change is going to affect them. Looked at a few different RCPs such as 4.5 and 8.5, which we've studied throughout the semester. The figure to the right focuses on moose as well as woodland caribou and their their demise and ranges in this case. The first one shows the range right now, or their suitable climate range. As you can see, it goes in the southern Rocky Mountains actually. I once heard caribou were seen as far south as southern Idaho, so it doesn't surprise me that there's suitable climate further south, even though we've never lived there. By 2070, with 8.5, the range has demised quite a bit, especially in the southern range. and the northern range is going more centralized. This is largely due to competition, especially with white-tailed deer. The study focused on their expansion of the range as well and then moving further north. Caribou actually have a thermal stress of 35 degrees, according to Racy back in 2005, which surprises me, seeing they could do well with fairly hot conditions compared to moose, whose thermal stress is usually 14 degrees Celsius before they start getting major stress. Another study I focused on was the Ontario province, and that was 50 to 99% contractions by 2070 with the 8.5. I have a figure on the next slide, but I'll focus more on that. This is mostly due to wildfires, habitat, and extreme weather. Mixture of this with habitat fragmentation is the most extreme factors for woodland caribou for these regions. Species that were supposed to do well are actually possums, white-tailed deer, and fishers. In their suitable climate, we're going to be going up. This was from the Woodland Caribou in Ontario study, and as you can see, with about 5 to 10 degrees change in temperature degrees Celsius, led to about 100% decrease in the Ontario province, and the same goes for precipitation as well. And the closed dots are 2070, while the open ones are 2050, so you get some variation in there. The last population I want to focus on is in Idaho, where it used to be, and was the southern mountain woodland caribou, which is a type of woodland caribou, and was the southernmost population they had of caribou. And then went functionally extinct in 2018, and they only had about 3 females left. And the last one was transplanted into a Canadian population in January of 2019, which is unfortunate. And this is mainly a result from many factors from climate change, such as wildfires, habitat fragmentation. You also have high predation in this area and artificial stress as well, and the variance of these factors led to their demise. At one point, they had about 30,000 acres in northeast Washington and northwest Idaho as a sanctuary, but it was not enough, and that was back in 2011 where this was made. It is possible that the population could be retransplanted, but with climate change and the other factors with their habitat, it does not look extremely likely at this point. For my conclusion of this presentation, the first study I looked at was phenology changes and how barren ground caribou were impacted by that. Their migration patterns were starting earlier, as well as about 10 days, and the calving seasons were changing as well. Range shifts with suitable habitat. The North American study pointed that the range shift is going to be heading northward and decreasing, especially with the woodland subspecies. There's going to be increased stress environmental factors. I think this is going to be big, especially in the southern portions where you're going to have more disturbance of wildfire and decreased habitat, and these populations are going to get more fragmented. With climate change and reduced habitat, caribou will likely continue to experience range shifts and populations may continue to become fragmented, which is unfortunate in this circumstances. If you have any questions, please let me know, and here are my references for my presentation. Thank you so much.